Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we're going to talk about bridges, roads, and parallel power structures. Parallel power structures are a concept that I've touched on in a lot of videos, but I've never really dove into the subject too deep. People who want freedom, and I mean real freedom, understand that freedom comes with responsibility. A lot of it. You know, if you've ever been out in the woods, like really out there, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you're free. You can do anything you want, including getting yourself killed. So, if you want that kind of freedom, you have to take that kind of responsibility. And if you can take that kind of responsibility, you can limit the power the state has. And this is where normally people get a little confused, because they're like, well, how do we limit the government? And a lot of times they try to get the government to limit itself. That rarely works out in the long run. A lot of times you can defeat an overreaching or incompetent government by ignoring it, by doing the things that need to be done outside of them, making the improvements that need to be made without their assistance. In today's world, people push back against that idea. And it's mainly because the things that most people want to fix are seen as infrastructure. And infrastructure is the purview of the state. It's the government's job. That's what they do. People can't do that on their own. There's nothing that the government can do that you can't. The government itself is just people. You are a person. You can do it. And these parallel power structures are the road to a future that has real freedom. And in that light, we're going to use a road as our example. Let's say you want to build a road. You're ambitious. We're not talking about some penny ante road in a subdivision. No, you want to build like a highway, 100 miles or more. So what do you have to do? What do you really have to do this? Now, the way we're taught is that, well, we need to go to the government, ask them, then they'll do a survey, and then they'll seize land from people, and they'll build the road. That's one way to do it. Or, before you build that road, you build some bridges. Maybe reach out to people in the media. Get them on your side. Get them to pitch the idea to the people in the towns along the way, the farmers that own the land. Explain that it's going to help everybody. But we all need to pitch in a little bit. And it'll work. It'll work doing it that way. I know it'll work because it did. In the winter of 1909, some people whose names have been lost to history, they had a couple of people that worked at a newspaper reach out for them, build those bridges. Now, of course, we know the journalists' names because, well, journalists will always make sure their name is in it. But they went town to town, and in the towns, they'd be like, okay, well, we're going to let the Democrats take care of this section of the road. Y'all are going to build this. The Republicans are going to take care of this section. And they used that competition. They actually used the government against itself. It's fantastic. They talked to the farmers. They gathered the volunteers. They did all this over the winter. They got the material together. Everybody volunteering. Everybody knowing that it's going to help society as a whole. Then, in June, they built it. In a day. In a day, they built it. That alone is impressive. It's more impressive when you find out the road was more than 300 miles long and ran from state line to state line across the entire width of the state. It's called the River to River Road. Now, with a feat that amazing, obviously, legend has taken hold. There are some accounts that say it was built in an hour. That's probably not true. But by all accounts, it was built in a single day. Ran all the way across the entire state. that is a parallel power structure. And one of two things happens once one's built. Either A, it operates and the government structure ceases to be important, or the government changes. That's what happened in this case. When Iowa started numbering their roads, well, the River to River Road, I think it became 6, maybe 7. The government took that idea and it made one little step towards the idea that people wanted. Made it more responsive. It was very clear that the people wanted roads. They built one. The government's like, okay, I guess we need to do this now. That's one way it can go down. Or the government can just stay out of it. A lot of programs came into being this way. Not just infrastructure, but social programs. You know, there are a lot of signs that indicate the free lunch program or free breakfast program at a lot of schools was modeled after something that the Black Panthers did. I mean, we'll never know because it came out a few years later, and at that period in time, it's not like the establishment would give the Black Panthers credit for, well, anything. But there's a lot of indications that that's the way it went down. These little incremental steps and these parallel power structures, they can be built. And today it's really easy. You don't have to reach out and get the media on your side because you have social media. You can do it yourself. You can get those volunteers. You can change society. If you have an idea like this, it's probably time to start building bridges so you can build your road. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.